Hello, I'm Clinton from the EasyDIYSeries.com. My pool is nearly ready, but before they'll certify it, I have to build myself a pool fence. It's a beautiful sunny day in Brisbane, cream is on, and we're ready to go. So what are we going to do? We're going to break up this project into this usual 3 project phases. We're going to plan, we're going to buy the parts, and then we're going to do the install itself. So we're ready to go? So for planning your fence, I usually say 2/3 planning and 1/3 actually doing the job. This is because if you design your fence right, you'll have less mistakes and you'll end up with what you want at the very end. So let's talk a little bit about the types and styles of fences you get. There's usually 2 main types you get. It's the aluminium tubing style fence, or you get the glass like this, which is my preference. Glass is more expensive. It can get dirty also, but it looks absolutely awesome, and it really accentuates the look of your surrounding area. So what are the different styles of fences you get? So there's really 2. There's frameless and there's semi-frameless. Now in terms of frameless, there's really 2 different frameless fences you get. You get the spigots, which are the mini posts on the bottom, and the second type of frameless fence is called a channel. So all it is really aluminium channel which runs under the glass panels, and the fence panels are inserted and actually grouted in. So those are the 2 frameless styles. The 2 semi-frameless styles, really if we have a look further down there, it's really using posts at the end of your glass panel. So you get a half high post and you get a full high post, which can be stainless steel or aluminium. So before you actually plan or design your fence on a piece of paper, let's talk a bit about the main parts. So we've got the glass, we've got the spigots or mini posts on your frameless fence, and we've got the gate hardware. So a bit about the glass. The glass is usually about 1200 high, and this is to do with the compliancy standards in your country. The widths or lengths are usually range from about 100 all the way to 2 meters. What I suggest is try and keep to the same lengths as much as possible, because it will actually look nicer at the end. Another quick tip is that if you stick to the standard 1300 length panel, what you'll find, you actually save a bit of money too. They obviously produce a lot more of those because they're more common, and they're a lot cheaper than the rest of the panel sizes, which you'll see in your local hardware store. So for the glass panel, thickness is usually about 10 to 12 mil thick, so it's very tough, very thick. It's not going to break easy, whereas your glass panel is usually a little bit thinner. It's about 8 mils from what I've found. In terms of holes, so what is great about your hinge panel for your gate is the holes are usually pre-drilled, so you don't need to make any holes in your glass. The hinges should mount directly through the holes, which I'll show you a bit later in the installation. And the rest of your gate hardware is usually pressure mounted, so no holes are actually required. So that's a bit about your glass panels. So your spigots usually come in aluminium material or stainless steel. Stainless steel being 304 or 316, they're both just as good. Aluminium is cheaper, but stainless steel will last you a little bit longer. What's nice about stainless steel, also comes in a nice glossy finish, or it can also have a brush style finish. Now the spigots themselves, they have usually 2 but 4's better holes in them, which they will secure to the ground. And another quick tip, they can be quite expensive, so have a look online. If you know your design, you know how many spigots you need, you can usually get them for up to half price online. So have a look around, and at the end of the day you can get exactly what you want and they look great. In terms of the gate hardware, as discussed, the hinges themselves just get mounted through the pre-drilled holes in your panels, and the latch itself is actually pressure mounted to the panels. So there's no other holes but on your hinge panel itself. One recommendation is buy your gate hardware from the same place you buy your panels to ensure that they actually match your pre-drilled holes. So before actually starting your design, you really need to understand the certification requirements for a pool fence. You can usually quite easily find this online, like I did. Just pay careful attention to the detail because it will impact your actual design of your fence itself. You need to remember that this pool fence will need to be certified before you can actually fill your pool up. So just a couple of quick points. Any gaps between panels, any gaps below panels cannot be more than 100 millimeter. Your pool fence needs to be at a minimum 1200 high, and also when you have a pool gate, it needs to swing away from your pool. You can't have it swinging inwards, it won't pass the standards. Also, if you've got a glass pool fence, the latch that I'll show you later gets installed on the pool side. So in summary, we know what type of fence we're going for is glass. We know what style of fence we're going for, the frameless with the mini posts or spigots. We understand the parts that are needed, so you got the glass, the gate hardware and the spigots that we need to buy. And also you understand the certification requirements because that will define the spaces and some of the criteria in your design itself. So armed with all that information, you're ready to actually design or plan your fence. What I suggest is just get a standard piece of paper. What I do is I draw my design on a basic piece of paper, so it helps me to understand what I need, and I've thought about everything in the process. So what I suggest is just measure end to end where your actual fence is going to go. You then need to decide the lengths of your panels to fit within that space. As mentioned, try and use the same lengths so it's consistent and looks nice in terms of the pattern itself. And also what's important is make sure in your plan you've chosen your spaces or accounted for your spaces between your glass panes. So most certification criteria say maximum of 100 mil. 50 is usually the standard chosen, which actually looks nice. And interestingly enough, also helps with the airflow into your pool area. So now that you're equipped with your plan, your design, your planning phase is really complete. You now have a parts list from your design and you're ready to enter the buy project phase. So on your parts list, you'll only have a number of parts. It should be quite short. You'll have your glass panels, which you can buy from a number of places, pool shops, dedicated fence companies, or even at your local hardware store. They are quite heavy, so you can get delivery, which will cost a little bit more. But if you want to use your local hardware store, a quick tip is you can just use their courtesy trailer, get them to give you a hand, and that's usually free for about 2 hours. A standard 1300 panel is about $100. So then it's your spigots. I mentioned before too, you can get these online. Usually in quantity, you can get them about half the price for about $50 each. Your gate hardware, you can usually costs about $100 to $150 as a kit for the latch and the two hinges themselves. And finally, we have the masonry anchors. These are galvanized masonry anchors. You can get them from your local hardware store. Usually there's 4 per spigot, so you can usually buy them in boxes of 50 or 100 for your fence install. So are there any special tool requirements to install your glass fence? There actually aren't many, but let's just go through the basics of what you need. First thing you need to buy is just some bricklayer's line. So you will use this to actually ensure that your panel's on a straight line. Probably most importantly is your hammer drill. You can use one of these small cordless ones, they'll do the job. But if you do have a more industrial one, you'll obviously save yourself a little bit of time. So your hammer drill is to secure your spigots into the ground. You'll also need just a basic socket wrench. When you put your masonry anchors into your spigots into the ground, you just need a socket to be able to tighten them. And really finally, which is as important, just some protective gear when you do your drilling, and also some gloves when you're carrying your glass panes. So we finished our planning phase, we're clear on our design, we've gone to pick up our parts from our local hardware store, and we're ready for the install of the actual pool fence. We're ready for the project phase. So let's get going with the install. So the very first thing to ensure that your fence is straight, and when installing your mini posts or your spigots, you need to run a string line. So you can see I've run a string line 120 mils from the edge of the pool tile all the way up, and I've ensured that it's going to be a perfectly straight line. To ensure that your pool panels are perfectly in line in relation to the pool edge, I've measured a string line 120 mils from the pool edge all the way down. So what happens when we install our spigots or mini posts, you put the string line in the middle, you mount your spigots first all the way along, and then the very last thing you do is mount your panels. So we have a 1200 wide hinge panel before we have our pool gate. So what we need to do, we need to ensure that these spigots are evenly spaced for the 1200 panel. I will mark out the holes in my spigots. And I'm now ready to drill my holes. Okay, the holes are drilled. Perfect. That is not coming off. And there you have it. Now you repeat this for all your spigots or mini posts to match your panels all the way along. These panels are very heavy, so if you've got a bad back or something, rather get a mate to give you a hand. Okay. Now with these spigots or mini posts, the way it clamps onto the glass is just by some Allen keys, and it causes pressure onto the glass, securing it that way. There's no holes that actually go through the glass to secure these. So what happens is a piece of plastic which fits into there. The glass slides through there, so the glass panel is protected. And then there's a little metal panel, and that just goes where the Allen key screws are. And the reason for that is the screws can crack the glass. So what it does, as you tighten the Allen keys, it puts pressure on the plate, which then puts pressure on the glass itself. The actual gate accessories will literally screw on in the pre-drilled holes. Now that I've mounted the gate hinges and latch, it's ready to go on the fence. because finally with the pool gate, it must be able to swing open and close itself and lock. There you go. Now to finish off the remaining panels to that adjacent wall, and the job will be done. With my pool fence, there were two non-compliances which I had to fix up before I could get the pool's fence certified. The first one was I added an extra brazier for the pool glass to make it stronger, but this meant that it wasn't compliant with no climbable object less than 900 millimeters from the floor. This is less than 900 millimeters high, which meant that it was non-compliant. The other non-compliancy was the paling fence. Usually with any paling fence you have horizontal braces which go across the paling fence to support the palings when they're mounted. That was also less than 900 millimeters high from the floor, meaning it was non-compliant. So how did I get over this? The first one was I put a piece of Perspex in front of this climbable object, which means that you can't stick your foot on top of it and climb over the fence anymore. In terms of the palings, all I did from the very far end, I just put a set of palings across the front face all the way past the pool fence, which means you can't see the climbable horizontal brace anymore, and there's nothing to climb on anymore. So there we are. The pool fence should now be compliant. So that's it. The install stage of my project is complete. The fence looks absolutely awesome, complements my pool and the surroundings very nicely. So just to end off, please like my video and look at the rest of my videos on www.easydiyseries.com, and I'll see you soon.